turn it over to Andrew Mendez.
All right, perfect. We could pull up the first slide here. So welcome everybody who's joining. For those who don't know, Absco Solutions was incorporated in 1977. We have been in business as a fire life safety company that deals with access control, video surveillance, intrusion detection, and fire systems. Recently, we have incorporated Motorola Radio into our suite. We'll be continuing to talk about that here in a little bit. Next slide. From here, we have our service suite, which kind of goes over some of the stuff that we just talked about: access control, intrusion, video surveillance, fire life safety, and everything that we aim to do is to integrate our suite of products to make things streamlined and work together for you. Next. Thank you. So partnership with Motorola. Partnership with Motorola started last year in 2021. Motorola did acquire Avigilon. A lot of the people who are on here are Avigilon users. With that said, we've noticed that ACM has turned into, has been branded as a Motorola Solution product as well. We've also started seeing that in ACC. And with that merger and acquisition, we are now a PCR radio dealer. With that, perfect, thank you. With that said, we can go to the next. With that said, a few key people that you'll be hearing from today, as well as throughout other presentations, is our president, Tom Whitaker, myself, technology manager and radio sales point of contact, Morgan Campbell, who's one of our key account executives, Chad and Casey, who are both senior account executives, and Liz and Jennifer, who are assisting from our marketing team. Today presenting, we also have Bill Cook on the line, who's our area sales manager for Motorola, Aaron Gant, who's our channel sales executive, Bart and Tyson. Bart's our enterprise solutions specialist, and Tyson's our safety reimagined software enterprise specialist.
And just to let you all know, we do have another webinar coming up with our partner Motorola in the beginning of January, kind of getting the word out since we know the holidays are coming and nobody's going to be thinking about these things over that time. But it'll be January 10th, and we're going to have Motorola come and talk with us about concealed weapons detection that is powered by Evolve. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll have communication out about that starting with our November email newsletter. Turn it over to Motorola.
All right. Hello, everyone. How's it going? So like we mentioned, and Andrew, thank you all for the great introductions. I'm going to first introduce something that we have here at Motorola. So now knowing that you guys are heavily invested in the Avigilon portfolio, what we're trying to show you is what we, as a partnership with Absco, trying to bring you this unified ecosystem. So all of you are probably familiar with the Avigilon cameras, the access control, and all the different applications and sensors that you can integrate into ACC. What we want to show you is how you can actually bring radio into that to start notifying your radio side and even the incident management side, where you can start logging the incidents that occur. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you to this entire ecosystem here. As you can see, ecosystem is going to be kind of the word of the day. And as we talk about this, there's going to be a lot of different things on here that all of you can utilize when we look at this big space of things. First off, we're going to go into the Ally Incident Management portion, if that works. And without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Tyson Haddon. Tyson.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys' time. So again, my name is Tyson. I kind of cover the software enterprise for Motorola, which Absco is a big partner of ours. So what we're going to show is just a quick demo for one of our products, Ally, which is our incident management product. So if you want to go to this next slide here. So this is just a quick blurb of what Ally is. So essentially, it's a cloud-based incident management, records management, dispatch solution. So that's what we do, and we do extremely well. So we're going to be able to essentially take care of the RMS side, the records management, whether that be records, it be incident reports that we're trying to fill out, But we also have some really cool things embedded with like mass notification, some report writing, analytics, and then as well, just tying all of the pieces together, whether it be radios, Vigilon cameras, access control, things like that. So I'll take over my screen, and what we'll do is kind of a quick, we'll just do a quick demo of the actual product. And Bart, will you give me a thumbs up if you guys can see it? Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Okay, so this is the Ally screen. So again, this is the software where we're going to be able to really take care of incidents. So say we have an incident, a slip and fall, a trespassing, something that we're typically needing to write a report on. This is where we're going to be able to keep these. So everything is in the cloud. So we use the government Azure, so Microsoft's Azure Gov Cloud. So we're completely CGIS compliant. So we follow HIPAA compliance and things like that. And so this is kind of the home screen. It'll be tailored to every user. But really, the bulk of the software is going to be at the top, where we're going to be able to have records. So say, for instance, I'm going to pull up like this Sean Adams record. So we had set up like a be on the lookout, and maybe in this case where it's a student at a school. So this person is no longer allowed on premises. We've added custom tags. They're violent. Maybe they're involved in other things. So it's going to help us as a team be able to share information. And again, we follow HIPAA requirements, and we're CGIS compliant, so we can have pertinent information in here. So if we have a picture of the student, of that person, but then what's great too is we're going to have everything that's ever happened with this this suspect or this name record. So we're going to be able to see anywhere from car thefts to vandalism, sexual assaults. In this case, my demo accounts have a million things on this person, but you're going to be able to build cases. So this is what this is going to do is we'll kind of streamline everything, keep everything tight and consistent, but also help us run some types of analytics like visual involvements. We can see secondary levels of what things are going on. So if you guys do any type of investigative work, you're going to be able to make sense of the data. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish is, number one, have a good place for you to put this type of data, records, your incident reports, that type of information, but also give you some tools to, whether that be investigative, move things around, be able to see what's going on, where things are connected, or just to give you kind of a layout of what kind of issues are you guys typically running into in your guys' operations there. So that's kind of what that looks like. So that's all going to be powered through our records. We have some dispatching functionalities where we're going to be able to, if you guys have like a dispatcher, be able to basically give you a visual workflow of CAD calls, so of a call coming through. So if we had a new call of trespassing, we could add some quick notes, and it's going to be able to create these records for you. So you could tab through, adding things like priority level, what kind of natures they are, area. You can even drop pins on location if necessary. And what this will do in our dispatch screen is, as we're taking care of an issue, so I'll say, there's that call I created, we dispatch it, we add someone to it, we add any notes, we add any status updates, maybe they're already on scene. What it's doing is it's creating our robust report right from that report. So we can see that trespassing, they've arrived. It's created the time stamping. So it's just going to help us be able to kind of protect ourselves, but also create like I said before, a really robust report from start to finish. So if we know who's going to be taking care of issues, things like that, so we can update. And what that'll do, pending calls or calls in the queue, not yet assigned, maybe waiting, active calls, things that we're currently working on. And then up here at the top, we're even going to have alarms. So through a Vigilon and through some of the things that we'll talk in a second here with Orchestrate, we're going to be able to send alarms. So say we have a prop door, or someone opens a door and it's been left open for too long, or it's been breached in any kind of way, it's going to set an alarm, and you could have that to send it to radios, but you could also have that send it to Ally. So right from here, we'd be able to see what the issue is. If there's a clip associated with it, they'd be able to pull it up, view it, and then acknowledge that, creating that record right from the get-go. So if it's an issue, we acknowledge it. It's creating a record that we can go back after the fact, or while it's happening, we can add notes to it. So we have that right from the get-go, or we could cancel it out if it's a non-issue. So that's really, a great integration that we have that's tying with all these pieces. So again, when when we follow the scheme of things from start to finish, we're going to be able to take care of that issue and be able to record it too. So lastly, what we're going to be able to do is from that, we have like a trespassing call that we just created. We added Bobby Banks to it. We're going to have this very robust report from it that we could actually even add more information. It's going to have all the time stamping, but we can even go through and you can create your own custom incident records where you can do certain drop-down menus, add things like MO, victims, offenders. You could add pictures, videos, audio files, all sorts of things. So you're going to be able to create this incident report. It's going to be basically like just a document that they'd be able to fill out, make it simple and easy for them, where they can add their narratives as well. So again, really that's what we're trying to take care of, is kind of the records and report writing piece for you guys, and kind of tie all of these technologies together. And then lastly, being able to make sense of the data, right? So running analytics. So if we just wanted to run statistics on all of our incidents, being able to see, a list chart of maybe natures, what kind of things are we typically running into? In a matter of seconds, we can see all of the incidents that are, in our system, what our key points are. So most of them are trespassing, slip and falls, or if you wanted to see, pie charts, list charts, we can really create some dynamic reporting here. And then as well, heat maps. So this is, again, my demo account is going to go over kind of the globe here. But if we just went over maybe like a specific location or a specific campus, what it would look like. But really, it's meant to help make sense of the data, show it visually for you, so we could see where our hot spots are, what type of incidents that we're also running into in certain areas to help you, justify workforce, help you make sense of data, and hopefully help you guys get budget too, right? So you can go and prove showing these types of reports, run them, save them. So now that we can kind of streamline what you're probably currently doing, but make it a lot easier for you. So that's kind of high level. That's all I have on the Ally portion. If we have questions, feel free. You can chime in or you can send them in the chat. But if not, I'm going to pass it back over to Bart.
And Tyson, before we do that, can we kind of talk about the mass notification?
Yeah, absolutely. So another really great feature that we have in Ally is this mass notification feature. So it's, when it comes to mass notification, there's a lot of different things, and Motorola has a very large mass notification product that can do everything from takeover monitors to your PA systems, kind of anything that you're looking to do. But we how we accomplish it is kind of a more simple approach. So if we had maybe, a trespassing call, we wanted to send this out to maybe the teachers. We send it out as a text message, or we can send it out as an email or a phone call. Rather quickly, we can set up these types of these types of messages. So if we want to say information, maybe send our number here, and then they could select your specific groups. So in this case, I'll just select my demo account here. We'll activate that. And so in a matter of seconds, you're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to send out an email, a text, and a phone call. So let's see, I should get this here in just a second. Unless I send it to the wrong demo account, but you can see I got my text and my email. Here's my phone call. I'll answer this for you really quick.
Hello, this is a notification from your Ally alert system. Please press a numeric key at any time to retrieve a trespassing East Hall call if you have any information 43522404333. Thanks.
So I was able to, my email and my text came before I even got the call. So it's a great mode of communication. And you can send it, I think in one message, you get unlimited messaging with this. You can send as many of these as you want a day. So it could be anything as little as, it's Columbus Day, take the day off, or sending it to shift changes, letting them know that we got to make sure to, pass down call sheets or whatever it may be. It could be used for every, all the day-to-day use. But you can also send it to the masses. So I think our max right now, I think is 10,000, I think 10,000 users we can send it to at once. So it can be a large group that we could quickly blast out this type of information. Really, really cool feature.
All right, thank you for showing that. And do we have any questions from anyone about the Ally technology right now?
And we're integrating that into a radio system too, right? It's not just a cellular device.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tyson. And let me jump back into my screen very quickly. Okay, so let me know once everyone's able to see that. So covered the Ally portion, right? We mentioned here. One thing I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with is what Motorola has been doing on the radio side for, I don't even know how long, but very long time, right? So without further ado, I'm going to kind of
years.
90 plus years. There we go.
90 plus years.
I was here for the 95th, so I probably should have known that one. Okay. So now that we look through our portfolio, we'll kind of just touch on the different tiers of radios that we sell. So as you can see, this is a pretty vast amount of different radios and different radio opportunities that you all have the ability to purchase and use for yourself. So once we start here on the entry tier, we're kind of looking at just radios in a very basic, simple need, right? So push to talk, release to listen. Voice is the main thing that's prioritized here, and it's going to be the thing that's going to essentially be used for that device. As we move over to this mid-tier device, we're going to look at a little bit higher tier radios, a little bit more functionality on them. So you're getting a lot more voice functionality behind that device. You can start doing things like text messaging, GPS, actually seeing things on the screen here as well, which tell you where you are, or at least who you're talking to and things like that. Then we'll kind of jump into the professional tier. So this is the tier that I'm going to spend the majority of time talking about, as well as this premium tier. So here you're kind of looking at devices that could do even more things on them, like GPS, text messaging. This is where you're going to see devices that could get alerts from your radio side and actually come, or from your camera side and go through to your radio side. So once an alert starts occurring, it can actually get sent out to your radio. So whoever's using that radio in your fleet or your campus or something is going to get that alert to them to kind of make a safer environment for them. And lastly, in this premium tier, we're looking at our Moto Turbo Ion, which is our device that encompasses the Android platform as well as radio. So it merges all the things that Android can do versus all the things that Motorola has been doing on the radio side for 90 plus years. So very, very cool things there. Then we'll kind of jump into the different systems and technologies that we use. So again, if we look at a single site conventional system, it's going to be a system that just utilizes radio. You're just having that radio to radio conversation. You're not looking at any of that functionality. You're not going to be able to do a lot of those sending alerts from your cameras to your radio side. And then we'll jump into IP Site Connect. So it's still a conventional system. For those of you who don't know the difference between conventional and trunking, kind of look at it as a grocery line for the conventional term and trunking as far as a banking term, right? So in a grocery store line, it's one person to one, I guess, person checking you out. While if we look at a bank teller line, there's multiple tellers, and then people are kind of ushered to that next available resource. So conventional, push to talk, release to listen. Trunking, you could actually get multiple calls going at the same time, and they're not going to supersede or go on top of each other. So you have a more robust and bigger system to talk to as well. So IP Site Connect, you're going to get up to 15 sites there, still in that conventional mode. So push to talk, release to listen, kind of one call at a time. In that trunking space, you're going to have multiple calls that can happen at multiple times. So Capacity Plus for the single multi-site users, you go from 1 to 15 sites. And then when we look at Capacity Max, you're going to look at a system that has a centralized brain and operations behind it. and a system that has a lot more security and reliability built into it. So unlike some of these other technologies here, excuse me, Capacity Max is actually going to allow you to have a lot more safety and security. So in the sense of, let's say someone leaves with a radio, or a radio walks out somewhere, and someone's out there just listening to conversations or pushing and talking. With the Capacity Max side, you can actually remove that user from your system, so you don't actually interrupt your day-to-day operations. So the coverage, capacity, and control on there is what sets it aside from all our other technologies, as well as being able to get up to that 250 site aspect. Any questions on what I've covered so far? All right. So then jumping into our R7 series. So we actually have come out with this radio earlier this year. As you can see, it has a massive screen on it where you can see a lot of information as far as what zone and channel you're on. So that's going to be who's talking to you and who you can talk to as far as talk groups and things like that. Simple things like date and time are on here, as well as a very good way of being able to see all those messages and features that come through on there. This is actually our loudest radio on the market. So for you users out there who are in very loud environments, be careful because it can get very loud. So the sound comes through very well. If we look at this right here, this actually has two microphones. So you have one in the front as well as one in the back there that you can't really see. But that back microphone essentially samples the noise floor and actually will use technology to kind of get that out of there. So only the sound coming through that main microphone is being heard. Another thing that's kind of on here, you see the wideband speaker. It's actually recessed behind the keypad there. So you're actually going to get a lot better sound quality coming through the device as well. So it's a very great sounding device. Very susceptible or unsusceptible to a lot of cleaners. So you can clean it, you can throw it around, you can do a lot of things with it. It's not going to break. It has that Motorola guarantee behind it. So other things that we see on here, you have Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands. So it can operate in those different bands. And you do have some things like acoustic feedback suppression. So basic radio things out there that are going to make the radio sound a lot better to your users. Without further ado, I'm going to jump into a quick demonstration here on the radio side. So if we look at this radio, let me manage that a little better. Okay, so right now I have this Motorola R7, Moto Turbo R7 in my hand. I can jump through some of the different functionalities on here. So if we look at the right side, there's going to be the push to talk button, as well as a couple other buttons here. They're going to allow you to actually program different features on there. So you could program things to open on there, whether it's recording, your text messaging, things like that. Speaking of recording, you actually have the ability to look at the 5 last valid calls that come through on this device. So I'm going to show you a quick thing right here. So we see all these different radio IDs of someone calling. Testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I have a new playback option that comes through there. And I actually can play that back on this device. I don't know if you could really hear that, but it did play it. So you could store 5 valid calls on here, which give you the opportunity to hear someone calling you and you not having to say the old Sprint call, can you hear me now? Or what was that, right? So you have the ability to respond back to your system and hear what's happening on that front. There's a couple of things you could change on here as far as audio settings. If we go into the messages, you can see the different messages that come through this device. So right now, this is a message that I sent earlier. I'm going to send another one. So let's go back to this setting here. I'm going to send a message from one of my other devices. Just one more time. Okay. So sending a quick message to that device. So if we look at that main screen, I got a quick alert there, another hello from my other device. So you can actually see up to 6 lines of text on here. You could quick reply on there as well. So if you want, you have pre-programmed things to say as far as on duty, off duty acknowledged, or other things that you want to program on the device to quick respond to. Or if you want, you could actually just go and reply. So I'm going to reply hello. And you actually have predictive text on here as well, which makes it a lot easier to type. And I'm going to send that back out to my other device. So very cool ways of doing that. You also have the ability to do private calling on here. So if I want, I could go to my contacts. Contacts. And if I want, I could actually just go to one of these devices. I would hit that push to talk button. I don't think that's the right one. Actually, did this freeze?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Technology, right? You gotta love it.
So Bart, while you're getting that figured out, I'm going to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
That messaging is where an alert would come in, where you would acknowledge it. And if you had that canned message of acknowledgement or on scene or whatever you have, that would tie back to Ally and create that report that somebody has acknowledged that incident, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will show that in the Orchestrate demo of how that actually looks like and what it's going to come across on that device. Any questions on the R7 before I jump over to our Ion device? All right. Further questions? Let me get on Ion device. So I'm actually going to start sharing my screen from my Ion device so you all can see what I'm doing on here. All right. So right now, this is my Ion device. Similarly, what I did with the R7, this one can actually connect to an Android platform. So while both devices have the ability to do Wi-Fi, connecting to Wi-Fi, this one's actually going to give you the ability to use a lot of different Android applications on here. So for those of you who are familiar with ACC and have some kind of a Vigilon product out there, you can actually pull up live video feeds on this camera or on this Ion itself. So right now, this is our system in Richardson, Texas. This is a live view of what's happening there. So I could pull up multiple different cameras. So where this is going to be the most useful is for any of your users that are going to be holding this device, whether it's security or someone else that are patrolling or getting alerts that can actually see what's happening on that camera system. So if I want, I could scroll through all these cameras and actually pull up live feeds of what's happening there as well. For those of you also aware of all the alerting that happens, you can see all of that through the ACC mobile application as well. So this alert came through earlier. I triggered this. It's a loitering in the west parking lot. Again, this is a manual trigger because this is a live system. You can actually see people loitering around this area. We're not telling them to leave, but we can actually see them on there. One other thing is this is not a phone, but you can use it as a phone application. So right now I'm going to do a quick call from my device to my cell phone, and it is a valid call that is coming through one end to the other. So one thing that's going to differentiate this device from the R7 is you have the ability to use this outside of your radio coverage. So if I turn off my repeater system, I could actually jump. Actually, I'm not going to do because it's going to take a while to come back up. If I turn it off, I could actually start roaming onto a Wi-Fi or an LTE and still utilize that side button for communication, which is going to allow your users, once they start moving from that radio coverage to another area, to still be able to communicate and know what's going on in their system. So basically, you're allowed to have open dialogue anywhere you are, as long as you have coverage through an LTE, Wi-Fi, or through the typical land mobile radio network that radios are going to utilize. Other applications on here that you can see have Scanned It, which is actually going to allow you to scan different barcodes. Don't think I have any scans. I do. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to do a batch inventory scan. This right here. And actually, you can see it starts pulling up those scans on there, and then you could export that to wherever you need. So if you have the ability or the need to actually scan something, you could do that and save it and export it out to some other feature there.
So I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So this is Ed with Absco. Can that scan feature be utilized for insurance-based DTEX rounds. I know I'm going antiquated terminology there, but for physical guard security, going through a physical plant and validating by license policy that they had actually walked these particular high-risk locations every hour and have some sort of interface with a database?
Yeah, so if there's absolutely a database of barcodes that they're scanning, absolutely. They could look through that, it would scan it. As far as the acknowledgement, that would have to be done on whatever application they're using in that sense. So right now, are they using something like that? Are they using some kind of scanning method to acknowledge?
Well, I was just curious because the fact that that's sort of requirement in some cases by insurance policy for high-risk locations in factories and other things. You need to vouch that an officer, security representative, a facility specialist has viewed these transformer pads, these production machines every hour, every day, every 15 minutes. And that would be a good validation mechanism where that radio goes with the actual representative and they can actually physically scan a barcode or some sort of other encrypted code to validate that they are actually at the location, to validate it's not burning down.
Yep, no, absolutely. So if we look at it that way, with Scanned It, you could actually scan something and it would kind of interface with whatever database they're using at that time. If that database could take things as far as like timestamps and things like that, you would actually see that person scanning it at that specific time. But as far as the scanning feature, it's mostly around scanning whatever background application you need. You can do that if you want to have, let's say, a Excel or something like that, or whatever other database application you're using. You can interface the two together, and all the scans that come through the scanning application that you just saw, you get logged on there. You could actually program it, or if you want, have other features of time stamping that, so you have that exact time and date when that barcode was scanned.
Okay,
That
thank
makes
you.
sense. Absolutely. I guess that's kind of everything on here. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you could do. Yes, sir.
Bart, what does this product look like? The Ion, is it another radio or is it something else?
So let me go back to my desktop here. I will show you. Should start it with that. Okay, so if we look at the Ion, this is kind of what it looks like here. Close that. Yes. So it is a more ruggedized smart device. It looks like a radio, but it has that touchscreen application on the front. Some of the things that you'll see on here, like we saw before with the R7, is you do have those knobs like a traditional radio. You have that push to talk button, and you have those side buttons on the side where you could actually, if you wanted to, program them to open up this barcode scanning application or any of the other applications that you want on here. So if we look at it, this is kind of the feature or the body of the device that you're looking at, right? Still very similar to what the R7 looked like as far as what you'll see on the main screen and what I showed you earlier. Again, if you have the need to use a ruggedized like cell phone application or a ruggedized smart device, this is going to fit that need perfectly, right? It has Gorilla Glass on it, so it's going to withstand a lot of different things. We actually went to a different customer before. They had some worries about that, and one of our salespeople put it on the ground and started stomping on it with a steel toe boot, pulled it up, hit the push to talk button. Screen was still okay, and it still worked perfectly fine. So if there is any worry about ruggedness, it's perfectly great. Other things on there with other application, you can start locking down things like Hulu, Netflix, or anything that you don't want your users using. There is a camera on the back of this device, which doesn't quite show it on here. So if you need to have conversations or have someone get dispatched and actually show what's happening, they could do that through here as well. Just like I showed you with Microsoft Teams or whatever other application you're using, you share your screen. You could show someone, let's say in a service call, a pipe's broken and they don't quite know how to fix it. Someone can sit at their desk, open up their Ion or open up their Google Meets or Teams. The other person on the other end with that pipe could actually point it at whatever they're looking at, and they could go through those features there and kind of fix the product or the problem at hand. But great question. Any other questions on this device at this time? All right, moving along. So we talked about radio, we talked about Ally. You already know all about the Avigilon experience as far as the cameras and all the other integrations that you can do there. Next thing we're going to talk about is Orchestrate. So we mentioned it a little bit before, but Orchestrate is essentially going to allow you to do, it's going to be a workflow automation tool. So any of these alerts that we saw or that you know of that come on the video side or the access control side, body worn camera side, will actually then filter through Orchestrate and be sent out to the radio side, even back to the access control side, or the Ally incident management side that we talked about. So let's do a real life example of something that could happen. In this situation, someone walks through concealed weapons detection and a weapon is triggered on that person. So it's detecting that weapon, and then what happens after that? Through the Avigilon application, it could actually analyze who that person is, that they do have a weapon, and they could actually then send it out to the Orchestrate side. So then once it's there, it can help communicate and unify the communications between your radios and even logging incidences. And then you could then choose how you want to respond. So let's say in the situation, weapon is detected. It's analyzed that it is a weapon. We know this person has it. We're going to let everyone in that space know that someone has a weapon. And then we could start locking doors. We could start recording. We could start dispatching people to that location so it doesn't become a bigger issue at hand. So it's a very smart way of integrating everything a lot of people use and just making it a lot more streamlined and safer. If we look at the Orchestrate application, this is kind of an example of what we would look at here. So quick example of this one, someone was loitering in the staircase and we wanted to make sure to alert the security staff. Very simple way of showing it. And I'm going to do a quick demo, quick demo of that right now. So if we look at Orchestrate, right now I have this loitering in West parking lot that I triggered earlier. You can actually see there's this is the alert that comes through on the ACC side. So if we look at everything on this side, we'll see all the different alerts and alarms that can occur. We could add all of these in here. All of these that are added into ACC then just jump into the Orchestrate side once they're integrated, and you could start making alerts and alarms and sending them out to the correct people that you want. We talked about Ally. So once that incident did occur, it can then get logged to Ally. So you'll see the time stamping, and they'll start creating a screen for you that could fill out more information and dispatch someone directly from that Ally location. Then if we look at units, we'll look at all the different units that you could actually notify and alert. But right now we have a bunch of different radios. We have a bunch of different talk groups, which essentially is groups of people that can hear that message at one time, as well as other devices on there as well. And then we have things like ACC, or ACM, excuse me, the Access Control Manager. So once something happens, let's make an action where we actually start locking down different areas. So in that scenario that we mentioned before of someone coming through with a weapon, let's say they're in a trap. So they come through one door, go through the weapons detection machine. That weapons detection is detected, and then we then lock down that next door so they can't enter the facility any further. Or if something else happens, you can start locking down other doors in that area as well. I'm gonna go to the dashboard really quick. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to create a new workflow. So I'm gonna jump into the ACS side, which is Avigilon Control, Avigilon Cloud Services, excuse me. And I'm gonna do, all right, this be on the lookout on the main campus. So let's say we have a be on the lookout alert for a certain person. We have their face on record and they've entered campus. What happens then? So first thing I want to do is I want to be able to log that incident into Ally. And now what do I do now? So the next thing I would do is just link those two together, and I have a valid workflow that's going to be sent out as soon as this alert gets triggered on the ACC side. If it gets logged into Ally, that information is then present. You can start adding information like I mentioned, or you can start dispatching it to separate units. Something that we talked about earlier is, hey, this event occurred. I want to be able to make sure that I let this security person holding this radio know. So be on the lookout. This security person is then dispatched to that particular area to handle that situation. let's say the situation occurs where this person isn't there, he's either sleeping or maybe he is actually dealing with another situation at that time. I could put another device on here, put those two together, and if that person does not acknowledge that notification, it can then get sent out to someone else, or you could send it out to someone's manager and let them know, hey, this person's not doing their job, or you could have some questions for them after the situation goes down. So really quickly, I'm going to go back to my camera here, and I'm going to trigger an alert from the ACC side. But look at that really quick. Oh, that froze. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I've sent that alert out, and here's that text message that comes through on the ACS side. Text message there. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see what's happening there. So you could actually personalize this message however you want. So right now it's saying loitering in the west parking lot. It's a keyboard command, so it was triggered by me, and that's why it's there. But you'll see the timestamp, date stamp, and then you can go and do a quick reply and acknowledge that that happened, and say, hey, I'm gonna go respond to the situation right now. It's a very simple method of connecting all of the different applications here together. Any questions on that? All right.
And then audio is an option you're going to show as well, correct?
Audio as far as what?
The
Getting
voice
that alert?
also, not
Yes.
just text, but voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. So most of these devices on the newer side that we talked about, as far as these ones, R7 and Ion, as well as these 7000 series, they do have the ability to do text to voice. So you could, once that comes through on the device, you could actually get it sent as an audio file instead. It just makes it a lot easier for you to hear, so you don't have to actually be looking at your screen, or if you have a headset or earpiece in, it would come through that earpiece and not be heard in another sense, excuse me. So we covered a lot of things here. I know this is a very confusing chart. Main things that we talked about were Ally, Radio, and then Orchestrate. Since you all are very familiar or have some familiarity with the Avigilon side, you all know there's a lot of different things that Avigilon can do, a lot of things that can integrate into there, like your ACM or your Access Control Manager. So in a situation of a door being left ajar, that would then get sent to ACM and then ACC, and then would go to Orchestrate, where you could send that alert out to a specific radio user or Ally application, so it could lock that incident on there. So just integrating a lot of different things that you're already using and just streamlining them and making it safer and more secure. Some things on here that you'll see, we have a CWD, which is concealed weapons detection. So it is essentially a smart metal detector, which you'll see in January 10th if you attend that show. Another thing we have on here are sensors. So you could integrate things like halo sensors into ACC if a situation occurs of someone vaping in a bathroom, or a help sign is called, or a decibel level gets too loud. You'll get that notification, and again, it gets sent out to your radio side, and then someone can respond in that fashion. So the main goal that we want to show you all here is there's a lot of different things that you can do with this entire ecosystem. So with Absco, Motorola is working to provide you all the solutions and the security behind them to streamline all your applications and all your day-to-day operations. So a lot of things that we could cover, a lot of things you could integrate. If you have any questions, you name it, we'll probably try to figure it out and make it work for you. So without anything else, if there's no other questions, I'll just turn it back over to Absco. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining, and thank you to Motorola and their team for putting this show on. I learned a lot about radio, so I thought it was really informative, and we appreciate that. If anyone does have any other questions, please feel free. We have a couple more minutes. Speak up. If something comes up to you later, you can certainly feel free to reach out to your account executive or to our sales support at Absco Solution email. And then, as I said earlier, I will be sending out the recording and the PowerPoint we have from Motorola next week via email to everybody who attended and those that signed up and weren't able to come. So we'll get that going out to you soon.
I do have a question. It's more of a workflow, trying to understand assets out in the field. Let's just say it is a university or a campus environment, and staff members have cell phones, but have not been given nor will they be given radios. And you still want to communicate with those individuals, separate maybe from students who also have cell phones. I see the combination of the mass notification solution as well as the specific security radios communication solution. Can you kind of help me understand how would a user?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yep, no, I completely understand. Another thing that's, if you could see on this list that I'm showing, another way that we can actually integrate that onto those, I guess, staff, you could have this application that you see down here called Wave. So that is our radio over IP solution. So essentially, if you look at that, you could load this Wave application, which essentially is an application that allows that device to act as a radio. And so that alert can then get sent out the same way as it would to all your radio side to your Wave on Cloud device. So essentially allows you to act as though you have a radio without having all the necessary, I guess, radio devices or those radio networks to make it work, as it's going to utilize the public LTE network that your cell phone is working on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there's no brain really needed for that. It's using an on-premise VoIP already established system, and it's using resources already in the field given to staff members that are cell phones.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Gotcha.
It's just an application working on that cell phone that's going to allow you to make it work.
I like
And
it.
Yep. Any other questions? That was a great question. Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm assuming there's no limit to how many workflows you can create.
There is no limit. The only limit I would say is how many you want to see on a screen at one time. So if we go back into our Orchestrate application, we return to that dashboard, you can see we've made a lot of different ones for our demo environment itself. We actually partition them out to certain areas. So like say you're working on this school campus and you want to say, this is campus X and this is campus C, and these are the different workflow automations that we want happening there. So you could actually, I guess, partition it out that way, saying this is building X, camera Y, and this is this workflow automation that we want to see on that front. And again, once you start going into them, you can see if there's any issues, which ones are enabled, which ones are disabled. So you actually have the visibility to see what's happening on the screen itself. And with it being so intuitive and easy to use, there's a lot of different things that you could do on here. So if you want, you could put as many different alerts and alarms as you want, or we can work with you to figure out which ones are going to be the ones that are most going to resonate for your system. So it's going to make it a little bit easier for you, so you're not inundated with a lot of different alerts and alarms, and so you're not having that your staff start complaining about their phone or their radio going off every 5 minutes.
And can you lock a workflow that cannot be altered or deleted accidentally?
Absolutely. Not accidentally. So if we look at this right now, I mean, you probably wouldn't want to give this this technology out to everyone you want. You probably want maybe you with Absco and Motorola to use it, or just a specific user to actually create these and have them on there. But as far as locking and unlocking, I just enabled and disabled this by clicking in this top right portion here. That kind of just shows you how easy it is to use. Again, it's up to you to determine who's going to have the ability to get onto this software. You might only have 1 to 2 people on there, but you will still see who is actually, or I guess which workflows are enabled, which ones are disabled, excuse me, and which ones are actually on there. So you have the ability to see a full system, a full scope. And then just depending on which security person or let's say SRO or someone you want involved in the process of creating these and managing these, that's going to be the person that's going to be responsible for turning them on and off. And you can turn it on and off, but again, if you turn it off, you can see which ones you have on and off. I would typically recommend keeping most of them on. Just looking at this one, this is our demo environment, so this can potentially get sent to a lot of different users who are active in our demo environment. A great question.
This may be a future looking question, but if a user is using ACC 7 and soon to be 8 in the near future, and they're using focus of attention, is there any integration or visual representation of these things? I'm just trying to understand the focus of attention and where it's really segregated, right? That's its own solution, and this is a separate.
Right. So this is visual. So that's going to be mostly on your ACC side, right? So anything coming through as far as focus of attention. So if you have someone looking at ACC, that's where they're going to actually see the issues coming through. This is going to be taking those issues and pushing them out to a different user that's not in front of that computer or that screen or something, and that's not sitting behind that chair, so that you can start notifying people out in the field with those radios or with that wave device in their hand of something happening. While the focus of attention is going to be, okay, hey, here's this area, this specific alert was triggered, I can see where it is, and I have the ability to see behind a chair what's going on. While we look at someone, let's say with an ion device out in the field, they'll actually get that alert as well. They'll see the live feed. So you just have the ability to see what's happening more in terms of someone with a device versus someone sitting behind a chair. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great questions.
Perfect, Bart and everyone. Definitely appreciate your guys' time and assistance in making this webinar a success. Chad, if you want more Orchestrate demo, we do have a demo platform that we could use to demonstrate for yourself or any other customers that may be interested in seeing Orchestrate a little closer, as well as a demonstration of the alerts going out from a PC directly into radios. So we do have a mobile platform that we would be more than happy to set up, deploy, and get on site as a demonstration.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right. With that said, I don't hear any more questions. Definitely appreciate everybody's time, and I'm looking forward to hearing any feedback. If anyone does have questions, feel free to email them to salessupport@abscosolutions.com or contact your local accountant representative. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
all.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Freddie says bye.